So starting this September, students in basic schools will be assessed nationally at stages 2, 4, and 6. Pupils will also be wearing new sets of uniforms. Those are parts of wide-ranging reforms announced by the Ghana Education Service in Accra today. Here's the Director General of the Ghana Education Service, Professor Kwesi Opoku-Amankwa, announcing these changes in Accra.
New curriculum that we are rolling out has some key features that we want to highlight. At the KG, the number of subjects have been reduced from 7 to 4. And within the 4 subjects, we will do more in-depth teaching. At the lower and upper primary, the number of subjects remains the same. However, there will be more depth in each subject with greater emphasis on literacy and numeracy. We have also introduced what we call standard-based curriculum. This means that at every stage in school, a student or a pupil is expected to demonstrate an understanding and mastery of knowledge and skills that they are expected to learn as they progress through education. Now, emphasis is placed on instruction and various forms of assessment. There will be national assessment at P2, P4, and then P6. Now, currently, what is happening is that when a child enters school, we don't get to do any national assessment of the child from KG up to BEC. The only assessment that we get nationally to see whether the children are doing well or not is at the BEC. With the new curriculum, P2, P4, and P6, there will be national assessment to track the performance of the children so that we can put in formative measures to correct the challenges that they have. History of Ghana will be compulsory for each child from primary 1 to P6. RME and PE will be stand-alone subjects, and then French will be introduced at upper primary. The process to get the curriculum ready for 2019-2020 academic year started way back in 2017. But there was a ministerial committee, advisory committee, which was chaired by Professor Osei Kwatin of the University of Cape Coast. And that committee was inaugurated by the minister on 4th July 2017. The mandate of that committee, among others, was to provide a clear national policy framework for reviewing and revising the curriculum of pre-tertiary education in Ghana. Their report was subsequently submitted to the Honorable Minister, and then the Honorable Minister also forwarded to Cabinet for Cabinet approval. In addition, when as part of the process also, we've had a lot of consultations with key holders. Now, we want to look at some of the inherent deficiencies in the current curriculum. The current curriculum has not been comprehensively reviewed in recent times, against the backdrop that there's a need to review the curriculum at least every 5 years, according to international best practice. Other challenges of the current curriculum include content overload and an inability of the assessment system to provide sufficient data to help fashion improvement in teaching and learning. There is also a great emphasis on preparing learners just to pass examinations rather than to actually acquire knowledge. Indeed, the current landscape in terms of learning outcomes is not encouraging. And we have some assessments that we do. One of them, we call it National Education Assessment, NEA. Then we have EGRA and EGMA. And these assessments, and also including the WASI results, give us some indications that our performance is not to the standards that we require. Ladies and gentlemen of the media, the improvement of learning outcomes is contingent on a number of factors, including access, quality, teaching and learning materials and infrastructure, and teacher reforms, among others. This point highlights the importance for whole school reform. You can't just touch one of them and leave the others. As part of the several reforms that are going on in education, another area that we have found a need to also reform is the school uniforms for junior high schools. And the minister, through consultations, presented a memo to cabinet, which was duly accepted for us to change the junior high school uniform from next academic year. The idea is for them to start seeing themselves as secondary school students. They are in lower secondary school. In fact, when you go to other countries, when you finish primary school, you exit straight into secondary school. So the junior secondary or the lower secondary is part of the higher secondary. In our case, our structure is said that they are part of the primary school. So they tend to see themselves as primary school students. But the idea is to psychologically let them see themselves as secondary school. And this is also dovetailed into the new reforms that is coming in terms of their content, the content of their curriculum, which will be upgraded such that it will come to standards with the normal secondary school system. So the uniforms, we have copies here to show to you. So it's a skirt and skirt and top. Okay. The Ghana flag in it, which symbolizes patriotism and then the sense of belonging. There's a certificate which talks about graduation from junior, from the basic to secondary school, and then there's a graduation cap symbolizing intelligence and superiority, and then there's books which is in there for knowledge, for empowerment. We always say that knowledge is power. So these are the four key things that are in there that talk about, gives us some idea about what the need for the change. In the course of the week, we'll give you more details about these ones, the uniforms.
Agbagba covered this news conference for us, and he joins me now. Maxwell, good to see you.
Good to see you, Kojo.
So we also have details of the new curriculum. We'll analyze it in a bit, but first of all, walk us through what we heard. Let's take a look at these new uniforms.
Yeah.
Yeah. Tell me, what exactly did they say about these uniforms and why they believe we must create new uniforms for JHS students?
Well, we've been interacting with the director, the chairman actually of the Governing Council for the Ghana Education Service, and the reasons he has been given us is that he says psychologically they want to make the students aware of their transition from primary school to junior high school. The status quo is that you have those in the primary school wearing the same uniform as those in the junior high schools. They said they want to change that, and so that's why they are introducing this new uniforms. So primarily is to psychologically is to make the students aware that they've transitioned from primary school to junior high school. We've also been asking, because already questions are coming up as to whether this is going to be free or whether the students are going to be charged. You know, the status quo is that you go onto the market to buy the uniforms yourself. In fact, you buy the fabric yourself and then you sew it into a school uniform. That is going to be maintained. So this new uniforms, the fabric is going to be made available on the market. It's going to be readily available. So parents will just have to go out there, get a fabric and then sew it into school uniforms. But we are hearing that for students in deprived areas, there's some kind of social intervention, you know, in place for them. So we can hear the chairman of the Governing Council for GES making the statements.
Over the years, basic education is up to GHS level. Now, we want to move the GHS level to become the lower part of the senior secondary school. Just like the British education system, we all use up to P6. In Ghana, everybody would have finished primary school. In UK, yes, they also finished primary school doing 6 years. When they move to the lower secondary, they call it year 7, year 8, year 9. That's what they call the lower secondary. And the upper secondary is just 2 years. In our upper secondary, the year 7, 8, 9 is comparable to JHS 1, JHS 2, JHS 3. But they do senior secondary, which they call year 9, year 10, year 11, where then they write the IGCSE. We do 3 years and write the WASI. In this country, the debate has been 3 years, 4 years, 4 years. This government said they are not interested in that debate any longer. They want to make sure that if we can we can make the necessary changes, the children should be able to complete the syllabus in 3 years. And then, so that the debate about whether we are going back to 4 years and so on. But it also depends on whether whatever we do will make many of the students pass at the end of the 3 year secondary. And now that we have adopted the semester system, we now have more days to study. And therefore, the JHS, in order to make sure that they'll be able to complete the work fully in 3 years at the senior one, let us make the JHS now the lower part of the secondary level. And once you've made the second, a lot of work is done at it. Just like the British system, 7, 8, 9, a lot of work is done so that the 2 years you concentrate on your electives. And once you do that, hopefully, the children's, will be able to improve the performance of the children at any examination level. And so, psychologically, if these children are now going to operate at the lowest end, and psychologically they realize they are no longer in the primary level because they were wearing the same uniforms. So if you are in the secondary school, they will even feel proud that, yeah, this is distinguishing them from the primary children. And therefore, they will enjoy it.
So So the main reason for the change in the uniforms is psychological, just to make them aware that you've transitioned from one stage to the other.
Psychological, they will feel, or now that they are going to be the lowest secondary of the senior high, certainly it puts a lot of also responsibility on them also to behave like full-time secondary students. So yes, both psychologically and the level that they feel will actually make a difference in their lives.
What do you tell those who think otherwise, that a mere change of uniform would positively affect these students psychologically?
No, but can you imagine when you were looked at as part of the primary level? Because there was no difference between the GHS and the primary level. Now we say, no, let us see a change, because now we are elevating that level to a higher level. And that should actually tell you that, no, there has been a change in your life, because you are no longer like the primary school child, but you are beginning the secondary level. And that should sort of put a lot of responsibility on you to behave and act like a secondary. The secondary school, they have different uniforms. So why should the lower secondary wear primary uniform?
Yeah. What about the cost element? The cost element, and for those who are going to be wearing the uniforms, how are they going to get access to it? Is it going to be on the market so parents can go out there and buy it for their children, or government is going to make it available?
So far, we have gotten approval for the uniform. Government is not the one that is going to sell or do that. I'm sure if you look at the material, it might even come from one of the textile companies. So it will be on the market. As somebody asked during the press conference, now if faith-based want to use their colors, I think all we need is that it has all the print of Ghana flag and this in it, and that shouldn't be a problem. Yeah.
So parents would go to the market to buy it for the
market. Certainly, it will be on the market.
Okay. Now, I think maybe we want to find out from you the last thing about the curriculum, the change in the curriculum also. Was it necessary at all?
Oh, certainly. You don't run a curriculum for over 10 years and you think the world is changing. So a curriculum was done 10 years ago or 12 years ago in the case of this one. The world has come, we have come a long way since 2007 when the curriculum was changed. Everybody is talking about ICT. What important do we put on ICT in the current curriculum? And that is why that has been taken care of, and other things. And how does the world react? We have taken part in.
Right, so that's the chairman of the board of the Ghana Education Service there, interacting with Maxwell. But the interaction has gone a step further. Social media, after seeing the pictures of this new uniform for the JHS students, everybody has been sharing their views. Let's have a look at some of the thoughts that are being shared on this new development. And this one here is a message from Nantongma Yusuf. He says, please try and get teachers to uniforms. Alpine Desoteric says, I see lots of conscious comments. Kudos to you all who know this is useless. All this time of our poor education, at this time of our poor educational system. Ahmed Mubarak Nuhu says, when I write Ghana is sick, this is the outcome. What is the benefit of school uniform when people sit on the floor to write? So, is this rocket science? Kwesi Carter says, we play too much in this country. Jackie Akuya Afugani says, so in all this, who is going to benefit? Who has the contract to provide the fabric, to sew and distribute? Nanaya Debbie says, nice uniform. Serious Platex says, useless government with a useless leader. You can afford this, but can't afford printing fees. Right, okay. Lots of interesting thoughts there. Right. Now, Maxwell, I wonder, did the GES anticipate that there would be some sort of reaction to this?
Well, they anticipated that. A lot of questions actually came up during the press conference, especially the issues about who is bearing, the cost, and I mean, how are the students going to get access to these uniforms? But we are told that in the coming weeks they'll be providing us the details. One of the social media comments talked about printing fees today, and the Director General has been addressing that. We saw pictures of teachers writing exam questions on the blackboard
and on the walls.
On the walls and all of that. He described it, he called it, he said dramatization. That's what he called it. He said the dramatization is, unnecessary. He says because of F-cube, it's difficult to sometimes levy these students for, examinations, to ask them to pay examination fees, because that alone can be a barrier towards the access to education. He says there has been they've met several times now to make sure that it doesn't happen in the subsequent academic years. We are told that hopefully part of the capitation grant could be used to print the examination fees. Also, they are making available printing machines in all the districts' centers of education, so that they can be using that to print the examination questions for the students. But another issue that came up was why, the need for this new curriculum that, we've been talking about. And the institution that implemented, that designed the curriculum, I've been speaking to the incoming executive director, he's Dr. Prince Ama. And he's been telling me that a lot of things went into it. They want to focus more, put more emphasis on mathematics and then English education, because they've realized from the trend that a lot of students tend not to perform well in these areas. So what is going to happen also is that starting from September, there'll be a national assessment of a sort at stage 2, stage 4, and then stage 6 at every level. That's what they're going to do at these levels. The status quo is that they have some form of assessment, but what they do is to just sample a number of students and then let them take these exams. But this one is going to be across board. All these students are going to be examined so that we know, identify their strengths and their weaknesses. If we have to work on the weaknesses, we make sure we do that before the final examination. That's the basic education certificate examination. Another key feature of this curriculum is that we're going to have history, from P1 to P6. The status quo is that you start studying history when you get to the junior high school level. But we've been told that, for now, the new curriculum will make sure that we start from P1 to P6. So our children know their history, so the pupils will know their history. Indeed, they say that those who ignore history condemn themselves to not knowing, the present. And the GS, they've been making a strong case, for this. Let's listen to the incoming executive director for the implementing agency. They actually designed the curriculum.
Over the years, there has been considerable concern from many stakeholders, from teachers, from head teachers, from parents, from industry, from academia, about the nature and character of the curriculum in our schools and the way our young people are experiencing learning in the classrooms. Now, this is evidence in assessments that have been conducted in our school system. We have the early grade reading assessment called EGRA. We have early grade mathematics assessment called EGMA. Now, this assessment clearly suggests that at the lower primary or at the early grade, our young people are not able to read with comprehension. And for mathematics, many of them lack the basic numeracy competence. In P4 and P6, we have another national assessment that measures people's competency and proficiency in mathematics and English. And again, the results over the years clearly demonstrate that less than 20% of our young people at P4, P6, meet the proficiency level. And that is to say that they are able to write the exams and get, say, 55% of the exams right. Now, at BEC, clearly the results considerably, has been very worrying. Even though we are using the State 9 system, if we're looking at performance, you'll see that roughly 40% of our young people are not able to get grade 6 to grade 9. So 40% of our young people are not able to make the minimum benchmark, which is grade 6. So that means that these people fall below grade 6 up to grade 9, or 36 and above. So and that has been a major concern and worrying concern for many stakeholders. At the international level, there are international assessments that Ghana has participated. We call one the Trends in International Mathematics and Science Study, TIMSS. In the last time we took part, we're last, we're at the bottom. The previous ones we took part were last but one. And so the concern is, what is the problem? Why are our people not able to compete even among ourselves here and then also globally? And the solution lied in the kind of curriculum that are in the system. The curriculum we have is one that was developed under the principles and philosophies and theories of the 1950s, the drill and practice. And drill and practice curriculum drives a certain form of assessment. And that form of assessment is always finding how many people have passed an exams and how many people have been able to do well in an examination without looking at the processes leading to children's conceptual understanding. So the emphasis has been on product as against the process. So that's been the major concern.
So the new feature of this curriculum would be what? Emphasis on what? English and then mathematics and what?
So what this curriculum seeks to do, one, is to say that the schooling is not only about writing and passing exams. Schooling or education or learning is about developing the requisite skills, essential skills, some core competencies that will enable you to function efficiently in society. So that includes developing problem-solving skills, developing your capacity to collaborate, with your peers, and developing leadership skills, developing digital literacies. So these essential skills are what underpins the new curriculum. And so every aspect of the curriculum, from mathematics to English to science, history, we have integrated what we call these essential skills into the school system. And the emphasis is building strong arithmetic competency of our young people, arithmetic, reading, writing, and creativity, which is generally known as the 4R.
So we're told that RME would be a stand-alone subject now. What exactly does that mean?
Well, our initial conceptualization was to try and put together, put RME under a new subject that have been created called Our World, Our People. All right. In Our World, Our People, people learn about things around them, their society, their family, and the rest. And so values and moral and religious issues were also integrated into the Our World, Our People. But after extensive stakeholder consultation with the religious bodies and others, interest groups, RME became a standalone. That's why we said that it's a standalone, just to emphasize the point that in the stakeholder engagement processes, the National Council for Curriculum and Assessment listened to the wide views of relevant stakeholders and made sure that the RME, which was initially integrated into Our World, Our People, becomes a standalone subject. And
then history would now be taught from primary 1 to primary 6, we are told? What is that?
Exactly. So the point is to ensure that, our young people develop some sense of cultural and national identity. That as a people, we need to know where we have come from. And that will be able to shape our way of being. And so history has been introduced into the curriculum, as a standalone from primary 1 to primary 6. So people can know about the history of Ghana and the history of their family, and the environment and issues around them,
In the past, it was history was studied at the senior high school level, not at the basic school level, right?
Exactly. I regret that I never had the opportunity to study history, but because it gives a sense of heightened sense of nationalism, to feel that, to have an understanding of where you have come from, as a young child. And so that's the basis of adding or integrating history into the primary school curriculum. So that from the onset, we know, if you, in the other developed countries, you see that history is there from the early stages up to even secondary school. They do history throughout. And so it's important that we begin to create that national awareness, the self-identity of being a Ghanaian, and the sense of national identity that is associated with being a Ghanaian, and who is a Ghanaian, and the rest. So that's what has informed our decision to include the history into the curriculum.
And then the study of French. We are told that French would now be taught from primary 6, upper 6. I'm not too sure of.
Yeah, so primary French will be taught from primary 4, and hopefully, when we have more teachers, we may want to even consider, bringing French at primary 3, because at primary 1 to 3, because the point is that developing multilingual, capacity will be very helpful and beneficial to us as Ghanaians, given the fact that we're surrounded by, yeah.
In the past, you studied French from the junior high school level.
Exactly.
Now you're starting from primary 4.
Exactly.
Okay. So in the long run, what do we seek to achieve with this new curriculum? What exactly do you hope? Even before we move to that, you told about a national assessment for P2, P4, P6. What exactly is this going to be like?
So you see, the point is that if people are experience the curriculum, they need to be able to. We need to be able to track the progress of these people, and so that we do not wait until they get to, say, junior high school before we are able to tell where they have gotten to. So largely, what the assessment would seek to do is try to find out where the young people are doing, where at what level they are, so that it will then provide a basis for us to do intervention. Now, because this is a standard-based curriculum, different from the previous one, there are standards that will be set. So at the end of KG1, at the end of primary 2, at the end of primary 4, at the end of primary 6, there are specific competencies that the young person should be able to demonstrate at that level, and then probably at subject level. So what the assessment will do is to find out how many of our young people are meeting this standard. Say, for example, in mathematics, if the standard is that a child from primary 2 should be able to count from 1 to 100 and skip count in 2s backwards, then the assessment will find out whether that child has met that standard. And if not, then the teacher will be able to begin to undertake interventions. Now, the data can be disaggregated at the district level. So in a particular district, it is possible for us to tell how many children in that district have met the national standard. And then you can even disaggregate at school level, and then comes to the classroom level. So it's a tool, it's a diagnostic tool, to attempt to understand the challenges and the progressions of the child, and be able to develop specific interventions to help pull these children up within the context of education for all, or what we call an equitable quality education for all children under the SDG 4.
So this national assessment will be for both private and public schools, or is just public schools?
At this point, it's for public schools. And remember, already we do have national assessment that measure, and I give you an example, National Education Assessment, NEA. It measures people's competencies and proficiencies at primary 4 and primary 6. But this is done based on a sample. So what this new one will do is to leverage what is already being done, and then include everyone in the process, and again use the set standards that will be outlined soon.
Okay. So in the long run, what do you think will be the benefits of this new curriculum?
Right, well, that's just a little bit of what Maxwell learned when he engaged one of the people who helped to draw up this new curriculum. Let's learn a bit more. We're joined on the phone now by David Ofori-Acheampong. He's the General Secretary for the Ghana National Association of Teachers. Mr. Ofori-Acheampong, thank you for your time with us. So first of all, is this all news to you, or have you been aware of the development of this new curriculum all along?
No, it has not been news. We've been aware. We have had people participate in the discussions that have come up with what was brought before the press today. We have had an opportunity of getting our teachers to be sensitized on what is intended, what the curriculum is intended to achieve. And it's no news to us. It's no news to us.
Good. All right. So perhaps you can help us understand aspects of it. So now we're going to have 3 assessments at year 2, year 5 and year 6. Is that right?
Yeah, that's right.
Okay.
And assessment is not anything new. Now, since this is a new curriculum that has been thrown out there, at least there should be points of assessing whether the competencies that students or pupils are supposed to acquire at a certain level is what they have at that level. So that going forward, if there are some interventions that teachers will need to put in order to raise them to that level,
okay,
it can be done.
Okay, so help me understand. At the moment, with the current assessments that happen in schools at the end of every term, does that not give enough information for the GES to determine whether or not their new curriculum is working?
You see, there's going to be more to what currently this one will take to achieve. Well, we are going to interrogate the whole discussions when we have the full comprehensive report that was made before us today. But previously we used to have an assessment that is done on a termly basis. And so at the end of the term, the students are assessed to find out if the topics that were taught, they have acquired the competencies that is required of them. Now, over the years, it has turned out that it has not been very helpful. It's not been very helpful because it's only done at that level. It is not a national exercise. It's done on school by school basis. So depending on the kind of environment that the school has operated, it is possible for you to get what you're looking for, or it's going to be practically impossible for you to look for what you are looking for. For example, if you are in a community where some environmental situations prevented you from having the full score of an academic program, it's really going to be unfair. That's what I'm saying, that we have to look at the details of the kind of assessment that is going to come to all of us.
Yeah, but Mr. Ofori-Acheampong, the point you're making perhaps actually buttresses mine, because if you do a national assessment of all year 2 students, trying to understand how the curriculum, how they are adapting to the curriculum, obviously students who are in a school where there are certain unique circumstances, like they are under trees or sitting on the floor, might not perform as well as students in a more endowed school. So how will you be able to tell whether the curriculum is actually working? Because their performance might not have much to do with the curriculum, more to do with their circumstances.
Definitely when the assessment is made, other factors are going to be considered.
How will they be considered?
In what environment is the student who have been assessed in? It's going to be one of the issues that needs to be looked at.
I'm wondering why that is an improvement on simply taking the results of their term exams.
It will help all of us to address the situation. Because, for example, if you are doing an assessment for class 2 pupils, which is going to be a national one, and you pick Accra, and you pick a community where they don't have the same facilities as Accra, there might be some certain things that were, as a fact, a reason for which that particular competence was not achieved. So what intervention do we introduce?
So that
will inform all of us. What intervention do we introduce in those particular competencies?
Yes, but what it will not do is it will not tell you how well your new curriculum is doing.
Well, it will give you a sense of what the curriculum is doing, because if it teaches all that they were supposed to do, but circumstances of the environment did not allow the kids to get what we're looking for, that alone is good enough for you to do an extra intervention, because they're supposed to give you an opportunity to do an intervention to correct the situation. So the intervention is not necessarily going to be only coming from the aspect of the teacher. It's going to come from the aspect of the school. It's going to come from the aspect of the community as well. So if it's properly done, we should be able to address the problems as we go forward.
Okay. Now, you're saying that the purpose of these extra national tests at years 2, 5, and 6 is to assess the curriculum. Does that mean that this will only be for a temporary basis? Once you have finished assessing the curriculum, will you then scrap these years 2, 5, and 6 assessments?
No, I'm not certain. I've not seen the full document yet, so I'm not certain. I've said it's going to be a continuous process, because curriculums are supposed to be dynamic.
So the purpose,
rightly indicated, we have operated a certain curriculum over a certain long period of time. Yeah. And definitely, as this one comes in, you cannot do it only at once and leave it. You have to continue to do it, because year in, year out, you're going to get more people coming at that assessment age at class 2, at class 4, and class 6. So it must be a continuous process, so that we can have a complete transformation that we all seek for by the introduction of this new curriculum.
Okay. Now, they've also introduced new uniforms for JHS students. Were you part of the consultation for this?
Well, I think this one is not too much of a necessity to us, because, I mean, there are interventions that the government has put in place to mitigate some of the challenges that parents have. And apart from that, is school-free uniforms and so on and so forth. Presently, as we speak, they have the opportunity to go into the school uniform issue. We are not too much interested in that, because we know that currently those in religious education that have their own religious uniforms and so on and so forth. So for that one, it's not too much of an importance to us. If they design it, because that is the state. If the state decides that, look, the kind of uniform we want the students to wear, I don't think that should be too much of a bother to us. We're not too much in the know of that, but I don't think it's a big deal.
What you're saying is you were not consulted in that decision, in the making of that decision.
I said we were not in the know, and we don't think that is a big deal.
I'm with you. I just want to clarify. You were not consulted in the making of the decision, but what you're saying is that...
As for the uniform, we are not even too much interested in that, because look, you go to a Roman Catholic school, they have their own uniform.
Yes, you've made that point already. I just want to clarify the detail, whether or not you were consulted in the making of that decision. And you're saying you were not.
We were seriously involved in the curriculum development of the uniform.
I understand. Now, we were told that this is because, the government's reason for doing it is that they want to boost the confidence of students in JHS, because they want the uniform to differentiate so that they know that they are secondary school students. As Ghana National Association of Teachers, are you aware of any sort of effect of lack of confidence because of uniforms, which is affecting the performance of JHS students?
Well, I think if it's an issue of uniform, the uniform rather brings some equity and equality amongst the people, because the kind of uniform, if it cuts across, it gives everybody that confidence that yes, we are in the same level. I don't know how this one is going to impact, but I believe that if it is done in such a manner that you don't have to differentiate between the rich and the poor, well, fine. We don't have a problem with that. But I don't see how uniforms can create that kind of confidence among students. A student who is confident is confident. It doesn't matter what he wears to school. But sometimes, if you come in such a close, it has a bearing on some of our students.
So in essence, the rationale being provided by the Ghana Education Service doesn't make sense to you?
I wouldn't say it doesn't make sense to me. I said for that one, we are not too much interested in that.
Well, you've gone further to say that you actually think that uniforms provide confidence. They don't remove confidence. So then that rationale of changing uniforms to give confidence doesn't make sense to you, does it?
We've had change of uniforms over many years. We've moved from one point to the other. And for us as teachers, we don't think that it is much of a necessity to us. For our job, it's a curriculum and the resources available for us to achieve results, which is paramount. As for the uniform, well, it is the state's responsibility to the uniform they want the kids to wear. And that's what I'm saying, that for us as teachers, we do not see too much as a problem as to being consulted or not.
Right. Now, just quickly, if I can check with you before you go, another thing that we understand was announced today was that we are going to now have examination fees for BECE taken up by the government. Is that accurate? Have I got that right?
Can we come again? Is there examination fees for BECE?
Yes.
Well, so far as I know a certain percentage of the examination fees are borne by the state. I don't know if the totality of it is what is being borne by the state.
We will check the detail of that document when it comes to us.
But if it's the totality of the fees that is being borne by the state completely, we won't have no problems so far as they have the resources to pay on behalf of parents.
Right.
Because they control the national purse. And if they have enough money to pay for students, why? There's no problem. We will welcome that.
Finally, the inclusion of history from primary 1 to primary 6. Is that something that is welcomed by the teachers?
That is an excellent thing. We have, over the last 4 years, an association have been engaging and calling for the fact that history, for nothing at all, should be taught in our schools. That gives a sense of patriotism. It tells you the culture of the people, where you have come from, where you aspire to be. And therefore, when we saw it taken away from the curriculum, especially at the primary and the basic school, it was something that was a huge burden to us. We have done a lot of advocacy and we believe that this is the right decision. That presently our case must be taught as to where we have come from, what have been our challenges as a state, where we are today, where we aspire to go tomorrow. So it's an excellent decision.
Right. Mr. Achampo, I want to thank you for your time, and we appreciate it very much. David Achampo is the General Secretary of the Ghana National Association of Teachers. Now, my colleague Komla Adum has also been out and about speaking with parents about what they make of this new curriculum. He engaged some parents of the Adabraka cluster of schools. Let's hear what he learned.
Schools in the country will move from the uniforms that they wear currently, which is the coffee brown and then the kernel orange color. They will move from that and they will be wearing another standardized uniform which has been outlawed by the Ghana Education Service at an event in Accra on Thursday. This new uniform has the coffee brown, yes, coffee brown stripes, and then it has a khaki down. So the boys will wear the khaki shorts with the coffee brown and white stripes of sorts, while the ladies will wear the pleats, the skirts, and then the top. I'm here and joined by Na. She has 4 children in the basic school, and Fatih, whose sister's daughter is also in a basic school, that is the Adabraka Basic School. I'm going to show them briefly the new uniforms, Intimipacho uniforms, no enuni. So let me find out from them what their brief thoughts about Intimipacho into next academic year, womano. I say omo to sa intuma we e pam tade mo Odwen Hussein.
Me kayem bo so ahon fi se next year okura nkwala be 4 obeto bia tare na wa pam ayesa na ho kire nso abaye so fi se sika ne ho woto na ade kura se ye nto ade ayesa na ye ho nso akire nte ka ba na obeboa ye de a ene senkeye esa o mo ye de a enya ade a ye betimi ukura mafo a omedidi omukosko a ebegiska nti ayesa na ye ho akire.
Okay, so all she's saying is that she has 4 children, all of them are in the public school, and it's going to be a huge burden on them because they would have to buy the materials, and so for all these 4 children who are in upper primary and going to JHS to change their uniform essentially. And so if there's going to be any subsidies or any intervention, that will be welcome. But outside any subvention or subsidies of sort, they are going to be burdened by an extra cost of buying these materials and sewing them for their children. Mesamba Hokakra. Na Fati Ojinsa, say new uniforms now from next year. What's the stabano? So Pam this new uniform I share. What you saying?
Me for the me can so says I buy the bed boy because now which row so bed boy it drew on us of a boy. So my dear Nanya dear is a business cast suffer from a tin pan on alum beshe.
She agrees with Na that it's going to be an economic burden on their families because they will have to cough up extra amounts of money to buy, this cloth and then sew for the children. But buying so I say, to see more yawa and crying hano. Mo de mo betimi ato ontoma na etua but omo be ye bibia fa omo omote in crazy na omo ni sika na ombeto amama na nde ombehwe aye bibia fa omo ho na eno nso you don't agree with it?
So say nkran hano enya nyina na ye be nya sika sa say hano so no ade bibia boy den akura say obeya aduane ade a ne boy head and kwosoro sa na ha so obeya aduane ade a ya na den pa ente yen so ye won nkran ha ye bre.
Okay, she says granted that their colleagues or their counterparts in the rural areas are deprived, they also here in Accra also are having to cough up a lot of money, are having a hard time, raising cash because generally conditions are tough for them. Mark actually say omo muti class na emu ewo mu say ebia omo so mu ni sika so but mo amuti class mo so mo bre because bills wo hoy say mutua moton ade a omo nto then na opese aban yefa new uniform directive we ho.
Say there I was say aka so obeya man class for no ya so we ma chrome for because ye nyina ye pe obi a ho kire no wo ba bia ntinya so oboa yen so.
She says the form of help that is going to be extended to the rural folks in the rollout of this uniform directive should be extended to them as well because they are equally individuals who live in the cities and in these parts of the country who are equally cash-strapped and do not have the financial muscle to cough up the amounts to buy these materials and so for the children. Okay, so say you really a uniform. No. Second thing I'll kind of say, no. First, no, not in Colano, Omoko school from primary, Mulu JHS3 and no my BC, I be exam mama, all the students are more JHS3. But Sisiano, Colano do class 2, Ombe sa exam nama, Omo the whole Ghana, class 2 Colanqua exam, Omudu class 4, the same thing. The reason they say, Omo person more identify strengths and weaknesses, baby and Colano a idea, baby or monya idea, so that by the time we do JHS3, no, na or more boa other areas, na Colano idea, no, na or more boa could do JHS3. Ojin Hussein.
Send a pese or more year, Hona Munsia, dear na, or Monson Quenim, and Teso himself by Yana Sama, Abuan Colana dia, send it, and also near some country, dear Ayana everywhere.
She says it's a good idea if that is what is going to help their children, better themselves right through the ranks and up until they get to JHS3, then that is fantastic. But you also dream Hussein. Class 2, class 4, you be exam mom say BC, all of them on betro na ya mark na the results na ba omo pass no ma pass omo anya de na ye hu omo anya de na I say from that level no on betimi build it on weaknesses no.
I know see a good dear. Yes, I man crying at this yanacoso. Because we go how when you might into obey you know say some movements and obey the obey pass it. See, I know see a good.
She says it's a laudable initiative because it will build the children right from the ground up. When they get to all these stages, they're going to be focused and they're going to be learning towards this general exam that is going to be rolled out for them. Another thing,
Right, now also joining us is Dr. Gabriel Benaku. He's the president of the College for Community and Organizational Development and Education-focused NGO. Dr. Benaku, it's nice to see you.
Thank you.
Indeed, lots of news today. New curriculum, new uniform.
Yeah.
and new rules regarding standardized tests for years 2, 5, and 6. Tell me what your impressions are.
Yeah, thank you. If you ask me as a parent, I would say it's untimely. If you ask me as an educationist and a development advocate, I would say the approach has been totally wrong. And if you ask me as a Ghanaian, I would say the Minister of Education need to be very careful about the emotional approach they use for the educational reform in this country. And so if you notice from your footages you have picked, you notice that Ghanaians are not ready. That is not a priority. And therefore, we need to be careful about the agenda we are pushing in the educational sector.
That's an interesting preamble. No positives there. But let's look at some of the details. So they want to introduce history from primary 1 to primary 6. Surely that's a good thing, isn't it?
So you need to have a comprehensive stakeholders consultation.
Well, they say they consult, at least the Ghana National Association of Teachers say
that is not enough. That is not enough. If you want to do sustainable educational curriculum development in Ghana, you need to have broader stakeholders consultation. The traditional leaders, they manage education in their communities. What is their role in the consultation process? Development NGOs, who also manage educational institutions, have they been consulted? Because they have more research. There are funding agencies in this country, DFAID, Action Aid, other international NGO, Care International, who have done a lot of extensive work in educational development in Ghana. Have they been consulted? Even the development partner who inject money into our educational reforms, have they been consulted? What is the report from the Curriculum Development Unit, Research and Development Unit of the Ghana Education Service? What is it saying? Then we, the parents, what is the adequate preparation that need to have taken place for parents to give their best? All parents, teacher association in the whole country. Let's pick 10 from each region and let's listen to them and hear what they are talking about, what they think is the reforms and what they want to be included in the reform. So it's not about emotionally moving the agenda. In fact, if you want to manage change and transition, you need to listen to the dissatisfaction before you can move to the satisfactory approach.
Right.
And therefore, the approach of the Ministry of Education, Ghana Education Service, is not that of a populist one.
So let me ask you this. In your professional opinion as an educationist,
yes,
is it a good idea to introduce history as an extra subject from primary 1 to primary 6?
Yes.
Okay.
It's a good idea.
You're just criticizing the
approach.
The approach.
The approach is totally wrong.
But it's a good idea. How about the standardized tests, year 2, 5, and 6?
It's also good, but the approach is wrong.
Why is it good, though? What is the advantage
of extra
standardized tests?
In every profession, in every ethics, in every profession, you need to have a standard guide that regulates people, because people easily forget. People become lazy if you don't support them. And therefore, the principle of creating a guide, a standard guide, that will regulate everybody to ensure standard, ethics, administration is good. But you see, you don't use the wrong approach to do the right things.
It's interesting. Every time I talk to an educationist who supports standardized tests, I always raise the same question. The countries that are performing best in education around the world are doing fewer and fewer standardized tests. You go to Finland and they won't even test you. In fact, they won't even teach you formally until you are 7 years old. As for the tests, they come much later in life. And they are the best. America is trying to improve the education system, so they are reducing the number of standardized tests. Improvement is all featured by reduction of standardized tests. We are adding 3 more. Is it that we are trying to be worse?
That's what I'm saying, that because we don't have a research, because we are moved by emotion. For example, I teach MSc in organizational development, community development. We move away from the normal classroom. We deviate some of the principles in tertiary education. And that makes the impact for our students to create more businesses, create more jobs, and become great leaders in managing even schools and other places. It is true. But because we are a transitioning country, we need to develop ourselves. Having taken note of Finland, the US, the UK, the German. In fact, if you pick the German model, for example, on technical education, you will realize that that is what Ghana really needs to add to the other adopted strategies that our colonial masters have taught us. So Ghana is always an exceptional country when it comes to adoption of, even our constitution was adopted from two major countries. So it's a hybrid. So it's good for us to have a hybrid way of developing and sustaining our educational system. But like I keep on saying, we always rush and add more burden to the ordinary people. Then the policy will not become sustainable.
But I mean, you've just said that it's good that we're going to have 3 more standardized tests before a child even turns, what, by the time you're in primary 6, 12. So before a child is 12, they would have done, what, 4 standardized tests?
Yes.
Why is this? In fact,
Like,
some nurseries also do tests before you enter. So for some it to be 5 standardized tests. You say it's good, but you're also saying that those who are moving away from standardized tests are better.
You see, when you pick Finland, for example, which I've had a lot of research, I've done a lot of analysis about their education. Even though it's a loose system, which I believe works, but there's some checks within their systems.
But those checks are not standardized tests.
Yeah, it's not too rigid, but it's morally accepted culture developed over the years.
It's still not standardized tests.
Yes, but it's morally accepted norm that has been developed over time. So Ghana can begin with this and learn from the best practices. Then there will be a time that it may not be too restrictive. That's why I accept that we should have that standard system. The other point is that we don't have research in Ghana. See, every 4 years, we are moved by emotion and political commitment about something we put in our manifesto. It happened to most of the sectors. But education and health, for example, have been moved by political emotions. That's why we are not doing well. So the Minister of Education should take their time, ensure that they have broader stakeholders consultation in addition to international best practices. We may reduce these guidelines and standards if we had that broader consultation.
So we don't. We need more research before we make decisions.
Yes.
So this decision to have more standardized tests, this decision to change the curriculum, add history, all of that should be based on research.
Should be based on research.
Very good. Okay, let's talk about the uniforms.
Yes.
I'll let you tell me what you think.
The right to every child has nothing to do with uniformization. It's just adding burden to parents. Why are we rushing? Will the uniform transfer knowledge?
Well, what they are saying is that they want JHS students to psychologically feel that they are students and not pupils. They are secondary school students and not primary school pupils. So they don't want them to wear the same uniform as the primary school pupils. So they are changing it for them so that they will psychologically be aware that they are students.
It's not a priority of Ghana. It's never a priority. We still have schools under trees in this country. We still have unmet needs of teachers at the local level. Roads and sanitation conditions at the basic level are still a challenge. Why are we pushing an agenda to have change of uniform? For what? If you check how much government is going to use that for uniform change, couldn't those monies be used for infrastructure development? Couldn't those money be used to enhance teaching and learning curriculum research? The ordinary teacher in Finland, as we discussed, is given a research allowance. So he's able to research and know what works best and transfer that into imparting knowledge to students. Our ordinary Ghanaian teacher do not even have a laptop. No government has given laptops to teachers because the laptop now is an order of the day. That is where they can easily get information, teaching and learning material, how to even prepare, how to research, to find out what is working best. So we have great needs that need to be put into the educational system.
But the government says parents will pay, not
That's what I'm saying.
government.
That as a parent, I do not subscribe to that.
But I mean, you were talking about how teachers need, laptops and all of that.
Yes.
The government hasn't spent that money.
Yes.
There are still schools under trees. But I mean, government is not paying for these uniforms.
It's not necessary for me as a parent. It is not timely. It has nothing to do with quality of delivery. I'm concerned about my child having quality education. I'm concerned about my child having a conducive environment to learn to become a future leader. I'm concerned about our national policies on education being enhanced through people-centered approaches, not somebody's decision to change uniform, so the burden becomes parents' burden.
How about students who have, tattered uniforms, torn uniform? Clearly, that will have some effect on their psychology.
You see, every parent has a responsibility to take care of their wards. But the GES themselves, contradictory, have a policy that if a child do not have a uniform, allow the child to use any uniform to attend class. It's a policy guideline of GES. So why are you contradicting? You want to change the uniform when you already have a guideline that contradicts what you are saying? So it's a total confusion there. But the most important thing is that let's have comprehensive approach. Let's do holistically. What do we want as Ghanaians? What is the best way we want for our educational sector? For example, research is known that the first 7 years of every child is the formative years. That's where we need to put in infrastructure, softwares, to totally develop that child. After 7 years, anything you do to the child, you are pouring water on rock. Are you getting it?
Yeah.
That is what the state should be involving ourselves into. Let's have quality teachers at that level, the KG level, to form properly the mindset. Let me give you a typical example. I was in the US recently when I had a discussion with my professor and the grandchild. They were discussing something, and that child, who was 8, was saying, "Mommy, grandmom, will it benefit America?" Did you hear that? That child at 8 years knows that whatever he is doing must benefit America first, before any other country. But if you get right now down to this street, you will see drivers putting other countries' flag in their cars, worshipping countries' flags, instead of worshipping Ghana flag. That's the kind of education we have given to people in this country. And so our attention must be focused on the early childhood development. Let's invest more into the formative ages of our wars. And that is the best indelible mark we can leave in this country.
Dr. Gabriel Benakua, thank you very much for your time. Dr.
you.
Benakua is the president of the College for Community and Organizational Development. Of course, this is an education-focused NGO. There's more to come. Don't go anywhere. You're welcome back. Now, the National Premixed Fuel Secretariat has mounted a defense against criticism of their newly introduced premixed fuel. I'll tell you more about that in a moment. But first, on the education issue, we asked on social media, we put up a quick poll. We wanted to know about the education reforms. We asked, what do you think about the new school uniforms for basic education? Well, the two options were 1, great decision, and 2, misplaced priority. This poll has been up for just about 30 minutes, and already we've had 1.7 thousand votes. That's 1,700 votes. 70% of you say it is a misplaced priority, and 30% say it's a great decision. Your comments are quite revealing. Let's have a look through and share a few of them with you. 30 of them so far. Archaeology says, it is great to make changes about Ghana's education uniform. I support it. Agwamaji Mark says, Kwame Akotia once asked, can we boycott the process that gives the power to these people to do what they're doing? Until then, NDC, NPP, the value is the same. Sani Mahmoud says, some soul sourcing for someone somewhere. I like the alliteration there. Evans Eduse says, misplaced priority. They should concentrate on educational reforms. Joseph Anang says, this government is confused. Ataka Krasi Edu says, contract don't come for someone. Inusa Dut Isaku says, misplaced priorities, they need classrooms. Meshak Inkum, if your heart is saddened by this decision from our leaders, let's gather here for a selfie that will remind us of this sad day in the country's history. Sad selfie alert. All right, let's read one more. God loves me, Jerry says, NDC, NPP are all the same, just that they come in different brands. All right. Well, maybe one more. Foster Delali Anane says, the most useless decision the GAS has taken. What about those business people who have the old one in stock? And what value will the new one add to delivery of quality education? Yeah, there are some of the questions you've all been asking.